Hello, hi, and welcome to today's instalment of Social Value Always Matters. I'm Ben Capter, I'm Chief Exec of Social Value UK, Social Value International, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Sara Williams. Sara, welcome, and thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Okay, I'm Chief Executive of Staffordshire Chambers of Commerce. We're one of the 53 accredited chambers across the UK, and we are here to help and support businesses, usually in normal business times, to grow and prosper and succeed, but also at the moment, obviously, surviving is quite a big issue.
Fantastic, yeah, and the purpose of today's call and the calls we're making at the moment is really to speak to as many leaders out there in different sectors to really understand how people are reacting and dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. We feel like it's great to share that information so that people can find that helpful, because I think everyone's looking around now going, how do we respond to this? So it'd be great if you could just give us practically, how have you had to deal with this situation?
Well, the Chamber's got 52 members of staff, so one of our prime considerations is how we look after and keep everybody safe, and how we make sure that they're not too anxious, that we give them the right support so that they can carry on giving support to businesses, because that's obviously our aim and our objective. So a lot of our decision making has been around bringing people along with us, doing things in a hopefully a timely but not too fast sort of way, helping people to adapt and develop. So that's been a real challenge and something that's been quite different. And also because it's moving everybody on, and everybody having to look at different ways of working. It's quite different than normal, where you're just managing maybe one team that is changing or one area of the business that is changing. This is a wholesale scale, and we're only 52. So for some companies, this must be massive, really, really massive. So that's been one of our prime focuses. And then it's been about how we can be more fleet of foot to get the businesses the information that they need to make their decisions, because obviously we're a conduit for information from government, and also conduit of advice around other support that is available. So it's how we can help businesses to navigate their way through all of that at a period where they really need to have their hand held and develop that.
No, I'm sure you're playing a really important role for them, because in this period of uncertainty, businesses need to know where they stand. And so naturally, I want to apply a bit of a social value lens to this conversation. And for us, that means looking at issues of well-being, expose any inequalities that this crisis has exposed, and factors on the environment. So for those three things, are any of those things important for businesses, or how have you reacted to that in your decision making?
I think there is a real strong need to feel that you are a good employer and be a good employer. And so I think for businesses, one of the areas where social value and well-being really kicks in is understanding about how what they do impacts on their staff. And so one of the things that we've been struggling with, and especially as we probably go towards complete lockdown, is some of our staff are vulnerable. They have mental health issues. They may have issues at home that they're not prepared to talk about. People come to work for obviously to earn money, but also coming to work is it's very important socially, and in terms of making sure that they feel valued. Sometimes outside of the home. So that's been one of our real issues that we've had to bear in mind when we've been thinking about how do we work from home, how long can we keep the offices open, how do we put around them the support that they may very well need and yet they may not ask for. So that's been quite a big issue, and talking to other employers, that is one of the major concerns that they have as well. There is a real worry that if you're cooped up for too long with somebody who you don't particularly get on with, there is a whole risk of an increase in domestic violence, for instance. There are people who are self-isolating, who are already lonely, who may live on their own in very small areas. So there's been that. People who live actually, quite nice lives, but they are in their mum and dad's bedroom because they haven't got enough money to leave home. And how is that going to work for them to be able to work from home? So there's been all those sorts of things, which I think are all around well-being, and that has definitely shaped how we have looked at what we have done and how we've thought about what we will do in the future about supporting and developing our staff. And we're just starting, as the government messages are a bit clearer, we're starting to put some of those topics out to get our members to talk about as well, so that they're bearing them in mind as well.
For those issues of well-being, and all the types of businesses are starting to think about that, perhaps a little bit more so now than they would have done without it.
Yeah.
And just on inequalities, then, your members are quite diverse, aren't they? You've got big businesses as well as your small SMEs. Are you noticing anything that's sort of exposing some inequalities within the communities that you work in?
Yes, there are. I mean, I think one of the real issues that we're seeing at the moment is, for example, obviously the people who are in the gig economy, part-time working, all those sorts of areas who need more than one job, or at least need the job that they've got, are often the first people who are going to suffer from all of this. We also see a lot in people who are self-employed, and you think people who are self-employed might be doing quite well, but actually a lot of them are quite close to their personal budgets. They are going to be suffering around all of those. They are often the people who aren't getting the work coming through and have no other savings or recourse and are not part of any government scheme at the moment. But there is also a growing awareness. We did something for International Women's Day, sort of, what feels like a lifetime ago, but was actually only a couple of weeks ago. And there was a conversation there which is about how women are probably going to bear quite a brunt of all of this because of their caring responsibilities, the fact that they may very well be having more than one job if they're low paid. So how can we then, as other women, support their issues and how we can support them? We didn't come up with any particular answers, but it was interesting that there was an awareness of some of the issues around inequality as a result of this. I think there's also a bit of a growing awareness about how there is a great diversity in salaries. So we had a conversation with the Low Pay Commission recently, and one of the issues that they were talking about was how do businesses manage the differential? So if you give people the minimum wage or the living wage, for a lot of businesses that just means that although their wage bill goes up because everyone wants to keep the differential. Whereas I think now there is a greater understanding because of the crisis about what people's wages actually are or what the differentials could be, and I think there might be some sort of squashing of that. We know that people are taking pay cuts, for example.
Yeah.
They're not putting them all the way through. Putting the pay cuts at the higher level, but not the lower level, in order to keep people going. So I think there's that. I think there is also we have a really good charity here called the Hub Foundation, which is set up by one of our members, and it's about holiday hunger, and especially holiday hunger for children. And I think there is a real worry about how families are going to survive if they've got young children and can't afford, even in the best of times, to feed everybody. And I know that they have been calling on the business community, even at a time of crisis, to give generously and help fund that work. So I think that there is an awareness of it, and I think there is also a growth potentially in philanthropy. But I think the trick is how you get that into real business practice rather than it just being an add-on at time of need.
Yeah, perfect. Now we'll come back to the kind of positive things in a second. We'll finish on that. But just before we do, I know it's too early to perhaps tell, but can you see what might be different when we return to normal? What might the new normal look like? Is it going to be business as usual, or are you starting to see that there's conversations happening already that might mean that we go back to perhaps a different way of working? And forgive me if it's too early at this stage, but
no, I think there is a different way of working. I mean, I think that people are really taking to Zoom, Teams, all of that sort of stuff in a way which, even a month ago I would have thought was completely unlikely, and people are really reacting to all of that. But there is this real, we'll do all of that, but when can we actually see you? When can we meet? When can we have a cup of coffee? And it's nice to have a cup of coffee with a mate over Zoom or Skype or something, but it's not the same. And I think, we were reflecting on this recently about, was the growth in coffee shops actually also allied with more people working from home or working remotely? And is the new normal actually that we need more different shared spaces where people can meet in different ways? Because we're social animals, we're going to want to get together. So whatever we do around remote working, which I think will last and will keep, we will also want to get together around events and information and activity.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's that combination, isn't it, of connecting digitally online and also face to face in particular new ways.
And what that starts to look like, I think will be. It's interesting. It is interesting, and it is interesting as well how people, you talk differently when you're talking on a group call like this or something. because you can't filter out the other voices and hear just the one that you want to. Everyone has the same sort of volume. It's just really interesting about how the dynamics are shifting around how people are dealing with that.
I'm currently filtering the background noise of my children screaming in the background and my boiler that I'm forgetting. So no, I know what you mean. And hopefully some of these other issues that have come to the surface will also be front of centre, as we were texting, around pay and around security of jobs and things like that.
Yes, totally.
It's interesting to see the government are sort of able to do things as well, and I hope that these conversations continue. So just finally then,
I think sorry Ben, just on that, I think it is quite interesting. So we've been picking up with the whatever it's called, the subsidy for staff that are on furlough. But we've been picking up from businesses that's actually creating quite a lot of tensions also within the business, because why is somebody being paid to be at home doing nothing, whereas I'm actually being asked to pick up a bit of what they would have been doing, but I'm working full time, or should we do it across the whole of the organisation? So I think it is that there is a conversation around fairness and a recognition which needs to happen alongside some of this, which will be quite interesting, I think, in the future.
Yeah. And at the moment, because we're right in the midst of this crisis, there is a bit of a, well, it's scary. You know, there's some scary moments, and people are rightly so very panicked. But at the same time, we're seeing some really positive things as well, aren't we? And just to finish then, have you got an example of anything that you've seen perhaps within your community and your businesses that have been quite inspiring? You know, we've seen the best of humanity as well in these crises. And is there anything that you can leave us smiling with? And
I don't know about leave you smiling with. I think we have seen businesses coming up and helping each other, and we put out a call that we can help coordinate some of that. So businesses are doing that. We have one of our chamber members who does video, and he offered to do free videos for charities, but of course that's now been stopped because you can't have people in close contact. So people have been trying, but I think part of it is that it is so fast moving that people have been trying to do things in the run up to a lockdown. I think when we're in the lockdown, it will be interesting to see what happens then. But generally, people are they want to help. They want to get us through this and see us through all of this. So I think people, my world is working with entrepreneurs a lot of the time. They are by their very nature, want to take risks, and they are very optimistic, because if you wouldn't be in business. So they are always looking for the positive, always looking for something that will come well out of all of this. And I think the trick is, and that's why I like working with you, is the trick is about how we then get that to also be the wider social and social value conversation around that. How we harness that optimism for something bigger than just an individual business.
Absolutely. Well, that's leaving me smiling. So thank you. I'm sure you're really busy, Sarah, so I really appreciate the time you spared to share these insights. They're really helpful for everyone at the moment. And I presume if you're collecting advice for small businesses, I can point people towards your website. Is that the right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's loads of stuff on the website, and again, we're trying to make it as human and interactive as possible, so that it's ways of getting in touch with my staff as well, who will call all businesses back who ask for help.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks again, Sarah. We'll speak again soon.
Okay. Take care, Ben. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.